Hello everyone and welcome to our first installment of Sun Devil Extra, a new weekly program from the Mountain America Credit Union Sun Devil Radio Network that will spotlight each week the teams, athletes, and stories that are making news each week in Arizona State University Sun Devil athletics. Hi everybody, I'm Tim Healey, the radio play-by-play voice of Sun Devil football, men's basketball, and baseball, and it will be my pleasure to serve as your host for our show each and every week as we get you and keep you up to date on all the latest developments in Sun Devil sports. We will have special guests joining us each week, including on this week's show, guests that will give you a chance to meet and to hear from the coaches, student athletes, and administrators in Arizona State University athletics. This week, we're going to be talking Sun Devil hockey, as our guests will include the head coach of the Arizona State Sun Devils, the 12th ranked Sun Devil ice hockey team. Greg Powers will drop by for a visit. So too will one of Coach Powers' top players as second-year ASU goalie TJ Semptimphelter will drop by to visit. TJ on a roll right now as he is the national co-leader in shutouts with 3 this year, and he has posted 8 shutouts in his career, tying him for the all-time ASU program record. And you'll hear from him and from Coach Powers a little bit later on in this show. Our lead story this week involves the Sun Devil women's volleyball team, whose magical 2023 season continues. After 3-set sweeps of 8th-seeded Georgia and number 4 seed and regional host BYU in Provo, Utah this past weekend, the Sun Devils of Arizona State have advanced to the Sweet 16 of the NCAA Women's Volleyball Tournament. It's the first time the Devils have gotten to the Sweet 16 in volleyball since 1995. 2023 Pac-12 Coach of the Year, J.J. Van Niel, has led ASU to 28 wins this season, the second most in program history, and now he has the Sun Devils ready to roll into the Sweet 16 and ready to roll for a third meeting this season against a Pac-12 rival, number 1 seed Stanford, as the Sun Devils seeded 5th and the number 1 seed Stanford Cardinal will square off in a Sweet 16 match this coming Thursday night, December 7th, in Maples Pavilion in Stanford, California. And the winner of that match will take on the winner of the Sweet 16 match between Texas and Tennessee on Saturday in the round of 8. In case you're wondering, ASU and Stanford split their 2 head-to-head meetings during the regular season, with each team sweeping the other at home. The Sun Devils' home sweep of Stanford on October 29th at Mullet Arena was one of Arizona State's 20 sweeps this year, and that is a new Sun Devil single-season program record. Also, while ASU swept both of its opponents in the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament last weekend in Provo, Utah, Stanford needed 5 sets to avoid being upset in round 2, but the Cardinal prevailed. After winning the first 2 sets, they dropped the next 2 in danger of a so-called reverse sweep, but then they held on and defeated the University of Houston to advance to the Sweet 16. So it'll be ASU and Stanford in the Sweet 16 this coming Thursday night at Maples Pavilion in Stanford, California. In other ASU sports news this week, Sun Devil head football coach Kenny Dillingham has added 2 new members to his Arizona State coaching staff, including the hiring of a new offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, Marcus Arroyo, as well as a new defensive line coach in former NFL, Stanford, and Michigan State assistant Dyron Reynolds. Marcus Arroyo was the head coach at UNLV from 2020 to 2022, 3 seasons there. And while his one-loss record was just 7-23, if you look closer behind the numbers, you'll see that during Coach Arroyo's tenure at UNLV, the Rebels went from 0 wins his first year to 2 in his second to 5 wins in his third year. And this year, following his departure from UNLV, the Rebels advanced to the Mountain West Conference Championship game just last weekend, where they lost to Boise State, but played for the Mountain West title with a team, the foundation of which was recruited by Marcus Arroyo. Prior to UNLV, Coach Arroyo spent 3 years as the offensive coordinator at the University of Oregon, where he helped the Ducks win the 2019 Pac-12 championship, and went on, the Oregon that year went on to the Rose Bowl and defeated Wisconsin in the Rose Bowl. And during his time in Eugene, Coach Arroyo worked very closely with Oregon's former outstanding quarterback, now the quarterback of the NFL's Los Angeles Chargers, Justin Herbert. So Marcus Arroyo comes to Arizona State. He will be the new play caller, the offensive coordinator, and quarterbacks coach for the Sun Devils. Meanwhile, Dyron Reynolds, who will coach the ASU defensive line, comes to ASU after having spent this past season at Michigan State. The 7 years prior to that, from 2016 to 22, Coach Reynolds was on the staff of David Shaw at Stanford University, and while at Stanford, he helped coach 4 Cardinal defensive linemen who went on to become NFL draft picks. Coach Reynolds also has NFL coaching experience, having worked on the staffs of the Indianapolis Colts, the Miami Dolphins, and the Minnesota Vikings. So Dyron Reynolds will take over as the Sun Devils defensive line coach. In that role, he will replace Vince Amy, former Sun Devil defensive tackle. Coach Amy will be moving into an analyst role with Sun Devil football in order to spend more time with his young family. And Marcus Arroyo takes over now as the quarterbacks coach and offensive coordinator for Arizona State football. Sun Devil men's and women's basketball both in action this week. The ASU men enter the week with a 3-game winning streak keyed by the team's outstanding and tenacious performances on the defensive end of the floor. Coach Bobby Healey's Devils are scheduled to host SMU this coming Wednesday night at Desert Financial Arena in a rematch of a game that Arizona State won 75-57 last year in Dallas. Then it is on to San Diego this coming Saturday night, December 9th, as the Sun Devils play their first true road game of the season as they go up against the University of San Diego Toreros, who are coached by former UCLA and St. John's head coach Steve Lavin. That is a team that Arizona State also played and defeated a year ago at Desert Financial Arena, and the Devils will pay USD a visit this coming Saturday night. And we will have both of those men's hoops games for you on the radio. The SMU game on Wednesday tips at 8 p.m. with our pregame coverage starting at 7:30 that evening. And the Saturday game at San Diego, our pregame coverage starts at 8 p.m. Tip-off will be at 8:30 Arizona time, and both games can be heard on Arizona Sports 98.7 FM, as well as streaming on arizonasports.com and on the Arizona Sports app. The ASU women won one of their games at the Breon January Classic last weekend at Desert Financial Arena. The Sun Devils defeating Pacific University 76-66 last Friday behind the career-high 26-point scoring of Sun Devil point guard Jaden Simmons. The Devils' second game of the tournament, scheduled to have taken place last Saturday afternoon against Xavier University, had to be canceled when Xavier was unable to field enough healthy players to form a competitive team. So that game canceled, ASU winning the one game they played in the Breon January Classic. As for Coach Natasha Adair's program, they will be back on the floor this coming Friday afternoon at Desert Financial Arena, a Friday afternoon 1 p.m. tip on December 8th, as the Sun Devils will host their crosstown rivals, the Antelopes of Grand Canyon University. It will be Faculty and Staff Appreciation Day at Desert Financial Arena this Friday for ASU's home game with Grand Canyon. And that game can be heard on the Sun Devil Radio Network and 1440 AM KAZG with the voice of Sun Devil women's basketball, Jeff Munn, Money working alongside of analyst Maura McHugh. Sun Devil Wrestling had 2 podium finishes last weekend at the Cliff Keen Invitational Tournament up in Las Vegas, Nevada. 157-pounder Ja'Cory Teemer finished second in his weight class to number 1 seed Peyton Robb of the University of Nebraska in a rematch of their confrontation at the 2022 NCAA Championships, which Robb also won over Ja'Cory Teemer. Ja'Cory finishing second at 157 pounds last week in Las Vegas. Meanwhile, 149-pounder Kyle Parco finished third in his weight class in Vegas last week. The Sun Devil team finished 14th at the Cliff Keen Invitational in Las Vegas. In the wake of this program's 7th consecutive national championship a few weeks ago. Sun Devil women's triathlon is getting the kind of postseason recognition that you would expect to go to a 7-time national championship program. Arizona State head coach Cliff English once again has been named the Division I Coach of the Year for 2023 in women's triathlon. Meanwhile, 5 of Cliff's athletes earned All-America recognition for their performances in the fall of 2023. Heidi Jurenkova, Naomi Ruff, and Amber Schlebusch were all named first-team All-Americans for 2023. Zoe Marie Adam was named a second-team All-American, and Faith Dasso earned honorable mention All-American honors in women's triathlon this past year. Coming up on this inaugural edition of Sun Devil Extra, we'll check in with the head coach of the nation's 12th-ranked collegiate ice hockey team as Arizona State head coach Greg Powers will join us, and then later we'll hear from one of Coach Powers' top players as Sun Devil goalie TJ Semptimphelter will drop by for a visit. But first, let's take a time out. This is the inaugural edition of Sun Devil Extra, coming your way from the Mountain America Credit Union's Sun Devil Radio Network. We're back on this inaugural installment of Sun Devil Extra from the Mountain America Credit Union's Sun Devil Radio Network. I'm Tim Healey, the radio play-by-play voice of the Sun Devils and your host for our show each week. Thank you so much for joining us. Coming off a win and an overtime 2-2 tie last weekend at Colorado College, the Arizona State Sun Devil hockey team will bring a number 12 national ranking into its 2 home games this weekend when the Sun Devils are back on their home ice at Mullet Arena to take on the Ivy League's Dartmouth Big Green. With games set for 7 p.m. this Friday, December 8th, and the puck will drop at 5 p.m. on Saturday, December 9th at the Mullet. With us this week to get us up to date on his Sun Devil hockey team is the 9th-year head coach of Arizona State's Division I hockey program, our good friend Greg Powers, here to join us once again. Always good to talk hockey with you, sir. How you been?
Yeah, I've been great. It's always good to be here. You know, Ray actually gave me his blessing to call this the Powers and Healey show when he decided to leave.
I love it.
Or we could call it the Healey and Powers show. It's up to you.
No, I think you probably would get top billing over me. We'll defer to our engineer, Sean Crespin, and I think Sean is nodding his head in approval. We may have a new auxiliary name for our show, and a good one at that. Hey, speaking of good, your team brings an 11-3-2 record into this weekend's play. That number 12 national ranking. Give us your overview of the way the season's gone so far.
You know, the results are there. We have a special group of kids that just care about one thing, and that's winning. Right? They don't care about individual accolades or who gets the credit. They just want to win. They found different ways to win. We've been really in just about every situation you could imagine and found ways to win this year. So it's a great group that is very, very focused on getting the job done, and one that we feel like has our best hockey ahead of us.
Indeed. Are there any areas where you feel like this team has really elevated its play from a year ago?
I think just you know, it sounds cliche, but just resiliency. You know, we're finding ways to win really close games, whether it be going into the third period down a goal, being down 2 goals in the third period, winning games in overtime. Guys are finding ways to win, you know, and there's never a doubt in any situation that we're in that we can get through it and find a way to be successful. We got a great goaltender that always carries us through the tough times, and it carries out from there. And guys are just playing confident and committed to keeping the puck out of our net, which you have to do in our game. And so we're just we're happy with where we are, but we think the best is ahead of us.
I think those qualities were on display last weekend at Colorado College up in Colorado Springs. Let's start with the Friday game, a 2-2 tie, and sounds to me, Greg, like it was kind of a salty game. I think there were, 14 penalties and 28 penalty minutes between the two teams, a physical game, and your team was able to get a tie out of it.
Yeah, it was a game where we felt like we played well enough to win. The kill was really good. TJ was good. Much of those penalty minutes were on us. We didn't get home cooking at all because we were on the road. But we found a way to get through a really tough weekend against a tough opponent, win a series on the road, which you have to do as an independent, and the result was a favorable one.
Yeah, one of the goals in the Friday game came on the power play, and it was Arizona State's 18th power play goal of the season. That's the second most in the nation. What has been the key to your success with the man advantage?
Well, we have a kid by the name of Matthew Copperud who led the country in power play goals his sophomore year. This year, I think he's tied for second in the country in power play goals. He just knows how to run a power play, but play on one and score. He scores big goals and big moments. His excitement level goes up. That's his time to shine. And when you have a weapon like that, like the equivalent of like an Alex Ovechkin in the NHL,
right?
Teams key in on him and opens up areas and for other players to have success as well. And he's dynamite.
In that vein as well, your leading scorer on the season is forward Lucas Sillinger, and he's been a key on the power play. He's got a team-high 12 assists, 17 points on the year. He's teamed up with the Jackson brothers, Ty and Dylan, on your first line. Those fellows doing good work for you.
Yeah,
there.
high IQ players, especially Silly. We have him on that other flank with opposite of Copperwood, and he just, if you take one option away, he has the IQ to understand where to go with the puck right away, and he's tough to defend because he just can do so many different things.
Let's talk about TJ Semptimphelter, your goalie. You'll meet TJ in our next segment of this week's show, by the way. But Saturday at Colorado College, he posted a 2-0 shutout victory, 38 saves. The 3 shutouts are tied for the national lead in shutouts among collegiate hockey goalies so far this season. That also gives TJ 8 shutouts for his career, and that ties him with ASU program icon Joey Decord for the most shutouts by a Sun Devil goalie. Joey Decord now in the NHL with the Seattle Kraken. What factors in your mind, Greg, have led to TJ's terrific play of late? He's been solid for 2 years, but really good lately.
He just competes. I think he would be the first to admit a little bit of a lull around the Denver series. The second game, he was not himself, and I know it really bothered him. And he peeled back the onion and really reset a lot of things, what he did, on and off the ice from just a mental preparation standpoint. And he has been lights out ever since. He was great the first 4 games of the year. And he has been really, really good the last 4 games. And I think he's in a space now where he's challenging himself to stay there, not just kind of go like this. He's up here and he wants to stay up there. And he's the kind of kid that is going to figure that out. And once he does, look out.
And he had 32 saves in the Friday game at Colorado College, 38 saves in the shutout on Saturday, the 2-0 shutout win. And that gives him 4 consecutive games where he's had 30 or more saves, and it's not just TJ, is it? It's the guys in front of him too. Yeah,
we have a group that's bought into keeping the puck out of the net. Whether it's just good defensive structure and killing plays early, but most importantly, guys that are willing to get in front of pucks and eat pucks and block shots with whatever they need to block them with to keep it out. So we have a gritty team that's bought into that notion, and building it from our net out, and it feels good. It gives you a chance to win every night.
Yeah. Now this weekend, as we mentioned, the Sun Devils will be back on home ice at the Mullet to host the Dartmouth Big Green out of the Ivy League. Dartmouth 2, 3, and 4 so far this year. But Greg, when you think about the Ivy League, you think about really good hockey programs.
Yeah, they're good. They're well coached and structured, and they're in a great league, and they've played some really good teams. They tied a team like Quinnipiac, who's a very good team. So just like anybody in college hockey, you can't take anybody lightly. You have to be ready for them, and we're happy to be back at Mullet. It's actually the first time we've ever played Dartmouth. They're one of the few teams left in college hockey that we have not played, so we're excited to play them and see what it's all about.
This is 8 straight weeks now that the Sun Devil hockey program has been in the national rankings, number 12 this week. That has to be an immense source of pride for you and your kids.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a great stepping stone for us. As long as we're not content with just being in the rankings, and with our guys, I know that they're not. Really the only ranking that matters is the last one, so we're building towards that, and every week we're finding new ways to win, and we just have to continue to do that.
Now, a lot of Sun Devil fans I know, and especially the ones that show up at the Mullet for every home game, they pack the place, nearly 5,000 strong every game, but I think there are a lot of Sun Devil fans that are taking great pride in what your program is accomplishing bit by bit, especially over the last 2 years. Is that something that you and your guys feed off of,
Oh, yeah.
the pride that you are bringing to Sun Devil Nation?
I think so. I mean, I know so. You know, for all of us to walk into Mullet on any game day and see the crowd and you know, when wins against Denver in overtime, Providence in overtime, and the place just explodes. And you know, I've been here a long time, as you know, and that's, you know, throughout the build. You know, that moment against a blue blood like Denver that has 8 national championships, a team like Providence who just won a national championship a few years ago, to beat those programs in Mullet in front of 5,000 of your own fans, that was the dream, right? That was what we really set out to accomplish when we were building this program. And it feels really good, and it becomes contagious. You want more of it. And that's what we're striving to bring.
And you're going to get a lot of big games in that building in the years to come when you join the National Collegiate Hockey Conference, the best conference in the country. And these schools that are coming in are your league opponents. What will that move do? We've talked about it before, but just for fans who may not have caught those interviews, what will that do to elevate your program even further?
Well, from a recruiting standpoint, it will do, you know, wonders. Because kids want to play for a championship, right? As an independent, it's very difficult to make the NCAA tournament. We have done it twice. We're looking to do it for a third time, but it is hard. So to be able to play for a championship in a conference is what every kid wants. So recruiting-wise, it's really elevated that. But I think just to develop those rivalries, you know, with regional places like Colorado College and Denver and Omaha and North Dakota, you know, it's going to take time for us to earn the right to call anyone a rival. We haven't done that yet. We're new. We're going to be new in the league, but that's our goal, is to quickly become very competitive to the point where their fan bases and their players and their coaches look at us and consider us a rival, one that you know, they're excited to come to Mullet Arena, play in front of our fans, but understand it's going to be a war every time they play the Sun Devils.
There'll be some keys against Dartmouth this weekend. It'll be fun to see TJ get back between the pipes and just keep doing what he's been doing for you.
Yeah, just continue to worry about us and play our game and focus on keeping the puck out of our net. Dartmouth does a good job. They're well structured. They're big. So we're going to have to be good. But again, the focus really, you know, the main theme through this first half has been to focus on us, know what our opponents are going to do, but really just polish up where we need to be good and what our identity is. And if we play to that this weekend, I like our chances.
Indeed. The games again will be Friday evening, 7 p.m. at Mullet Arena, ASU and Dartmouth, and then the two teams will square off again Saturday with the puck dropping at 5 p.m. Always great to visit with you, Greg. Happy holidays. Best of luck the rest of the season.
Happy holidays, Tim. Thanks.
That's Sun Devil hockey coach Greg Powers, our guest on this edition of Sun Devil Extra. Coming up, you're going to meet the young man we talked about, one of the best goalies in all of collegiate hockey, as Sun Devil goaltender TJ Semptimphelter drops by for a visit. That'll follow these messages. This is Sun Devil Extra, coming your way from the Mountain America Credit Union Sun Devil Radio Network. Welcome back, everybody. We are heading down the home stretch of our first edition of Sun Devil Extra, and we thank you so much for joining us this week. I'm Tim Healey, the radio play-by-play voice of Sun Devil football, men's basketball, and baseball. Glad you're with us. Our guest on the final segment of this first show is a young man who made Sun Devil hockey history this past weekend when he stood tall between the pipes in stopping 38 Colorado College shots this past Saturday, helping Arizona State post a 2-0 victory up in Colorado Springs. Not only was it his third shutout this season, and that is tops in the NCAA this year so far, it is also his 8th career shutout, and that ties him with Joey Decord for the ASU program record in that department. He's now in his second year at Arizona State after transferring from Northeastern. He comes from Marlton, New Jersey, just outside of the great city of Philadelphia, and it's a pleasure to welcome goalie TJ Semptimphelter. 3 shutouts this year. That makes 8 in your 2-year Sun Devil career. Pretty impressive accomplishments. What are some of the factors that have led to your great play?
Yeah, I think for me, a big piece of it, obviously, last year, you know, in my opinion, that we fell short of the expectations that we set for ourselves. And for me, a big piece of it was coming back early so I could work with our world-class strength coach, Leanne Blinn, and obviously get in the gym and just work on some things that I thought I could improve on. And I think that's been a huge piece of it. Obviously, our coaching staff and everyone involved did a great job. We went out and got 2 additions in the coaching staff, and obviously we brought in a lot of really good players and great guys from the transfer portal as well as new freshmen. So, and then the guys that are returning are just a year better, a year stronger, and I think that's another big piece of it.
For sure. Now, we mentioned the 8 shutouts for your career. You've tied a Sun Devil program icon in Joey Decord, who's now on the roster of the National Hockey League's Seattle Kraken. What does it mean to you to be up there in the rarefied air where Joey is in this program? Huh?
Yeah, and obviously everything that he's done for this program. I mean, he's one of the founding fathers here for ice hockey at ASU. So just to be in conversation and obviously tie one of his records and sort of do something like that, it's a huge honor. And I'm fortunate that Joey's somebody that I have been in contact with. He's been a huge help as I go through the ups and downs of my career here at ASU, and I'm sure he'll continue to be a great resource for me. And not only is he a great guy, but it's great to have him as a resource, as a player here, and for ASU's hockey program to have guys that have been through it and are now obviously having a lot of success at the next level. It's that's really all you can ask for as a player, and have guys like that you can lean on how they were able to get through the ups and downs of their own individual career. So he's been a huge help, and I'm grateful just to be in conversation with him with obviously a lot of these records and stuff that are coming up. But he's having a lot of success, and props to him.
Yeah, I was going to ask what type of things you talk about. I would imagine a lot of it is the mental aspect of playing between the pipes, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think as you move up in levels, the differences between goalies is really between the years. I think so many guys are really technically sound, and obviously you can tweak little things here and there, but I think the biggest thing is just your brain, your mentality, and kind of what's going on in your head as you handle the ups and downs of a season. And I mean, especially at that level, it's a long season, 82 games, so there's a lot to be handled, and it's just important to be even keel and not let anything get to you. So.
Yeah. We've heard the phrase often, I think, in sports, various sports, where an athlete is in the zone. And I'm wondering, does a goalie in hockey ever get to a point where he feels like he is in the zone? And if so, what's that feeling like? What is it like when you are on a roll like you are right now?
Yeah, I think it's like any sport. I think there's definitely a certain zone that you get to when you're playing your best. You're feeling confident. You have that swagger. We talk about it a lot in the locker room, just that winning swagger. Like winning breeds confidence. Confidence breeds winning. It's sort of like a positive feedback loop, and it's just important, obviously, to find a way to stay there. Right? It's a lot of players can get there, but not a lot of players can be consistent and stay there. And so that's kind of something that I'm navigating myself. Likewise, kind of the rest of our team, and we're doing a great job of just finding ways to win right now, and that's really all you can ask for.
And that's kind of what you did at Colorado last week against Colorado College. You got the tie on the Friday night and the 2-0 win Saturday. You faced, as I recall, 72 shots, and only 2 of them got past you. How were you guys able to get out of there with a win and the 2-2 overtime tie?
Yeah, I thought both games were obviously a hard-fought effort. I mean, it's not easy going into Colorado Springs and competing there up, whatever the altitude is, and kind of having to manage all those, outside factors. But, our goal going into the weekend was win the weekend, and that's exactly what we did. So I thought our guys battled hard. Obviously, anytime you win in a shootout, it's a great feeling as a goalie, right, kind of head-to-head, and then obviously getting the shutout on Saturday was great. I was just really happy that we were able to leave that weekend with winning the weekend with a win. So.
Yeah, a goalie is only as good as the players in front of him. Talk about the way your guys have performed in front of you this year.
Yeah, I think as you bring up that shutout stat, I think the shutout stat is it's a great team stat. Obviously, it has a lot to do with goaltending as well as the players in front of me. Right, I think you look back to that game on Saturday. One of my defensemen, Ty Murchison, and I were joking. I think in one sequence he had 3 or 4 block shots alone on the penalty kill, and I think that just speaks to sort of the level of dedication and effort that this group has. I mean, you go down through the entire lineup, top to bottom, like everybody really wants to win, and that's so important. And when you have your top guys and your bottom guys doing everything it takes to win, it's huge. And as a goalie, that's all you can ask for. And when you see that, it makes you want it that much more as well. So I think the intensity has been unbelievable, and the guys in front of me continue to keep battling, and that's been a huge part of our success this year.
I would say all through the years I've been a hockey fan, shot blocking is to me one vivid way of showing a team's want to.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember, even last year and certain games that we had, we really showed signs of just kind of that dedication. But I think that's something that's really special about this group this year.
Yeah, for sure. Now, your team, TJ, has been nationally ranked for 8 consecutive weeks right now. In what areas do you feel the group has elevated maybe from last year?
Yeah, I think, like I said, the coaching staff did a great job of bringing in some transfers that kind of filled roles that we needed. And last year was tough. Like, obviously, we got hit by the injury bug kind of halfway through the season. We had guys like Copperroot and others, Charlie Shane, that were injured and had to get surgeries and stuff like that. So, I just think that the coaching staff has done a great job to sort of assess the needs that we have moving in to this coming season, and we're reaping the rewards of that.
Indeed. Now, you transferred here 2 years ago, as we said, from Northeastern in Boston. Of course, Boston is a hockey hotbed. What factors led you to pick Arizona State as your next school?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things that come to mind, but first off, just Coach Power's belief in me. Honestly, like, we talk about it every now and then, but that was a huge reason why I ultimately decided to come to ASU. And as a goalie, obviously, there's only one net, so you got to go wherever you think the opportunity is. And I believed in everything Coach Powers was saying about the future of the program and the direction that they were headed. And I was especially impressed with his belief in me. And another big part of it was I knew a bunch of guys here. So another piece of it was I wanted to be comfortable wherever I went. I mean, obviously, it's hard not to be comfortable when you're walking around in 70, 80-degree weather in the winter. But yeah, I knew the Jackson twins were transferring here. I had played against Josh Doan and Timmy Lovell and the likes of many of my other teammates growing up. So it just seemed like it was the right fit, and I haven't looked back since. So.
When you transferred here, though, I mean, I'm sure Coach Powers painted the picture of the future of the program, but it's almost like the future is now. Like I said, you're ranked 12th in the nation. Your team has been ranked for 8 weeks. You're bound for one of the best, if not the best, hockey conferences in the country. It's a lot of stuff happening that's really good in this program right now.
Yeah, exactly. I think, to specify what I meant when I said future, it was sort of like the future that I could be a part of when I got here. So, future as in, the next few years of my college career. So I was really excited, and obviously our goal is to put some banners up in that new Mullet Arena.
That new conference, of course, the NCHC, the National Collegiate Hockey Conference, the Sun Devils will be a member as of next year. And TJ, give me your thoughts as to what conference membership will do for this program moving forward.
Yeah, I think it's a great step. I mean, obviously, we've had a great run as an independent team, and obviously we're still in it. This is our last year as an independent, and we hope to obviously make the tournament and bring home a championship. But I think joining a conference is just huge because, in the event you're not in that top 16, which is very difficult to be come the end of the year, it gives you kind of a chance, some life at the end of the year to hopefully win your own conference and then get a bid into the tournament. Not only that, but it also just guarantees games against highly ranked opponents as it comes down the stretch. And I think that's obviously huge, right? You look at other teams that are able to make a push come playoff time if they, they get in their groove kind of late in the season. So I think joining the conference is huge, and obviously the NCHC is an unbelievable conference to join, arguably one of the best in college hockey. So it's huge for Arizona State, and it's going to be great in the future.
Give us a sense of what it's like from a player's perspective playing on the ice at the Mullet. You have one of the best arenas now in collegiate hockey, state-of-the-art, and a rabid fan base that shows up and fills the joint every game you play. What's that experience like for players on the ice?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. That was one thing. That was one question mark I guess I had when I was transferring. I didn't know quite what the hockey community was like out here, but I've been blown away ever since transferring. I mean, I remember my first start against Colgate in Mullet Arena to open up, and it was packed. Like, the fans were going crazy. The energy in there was unbelievable. And, the Mullet Mania or the Mullet Crew, 942 Crew, all those people that show up and support us, they have been unbelievable. And as players, we're so fortunate to have that atmosphere to play in. And it's certainly an advantage because when other teams come in, I know they, just from some buddies and friends that play on other teams, they're certainly not easy on them as they're going through the tunnel. So.
Yeah. You know, I have heard several people say, and I don't think they're joking, they say that Arizona State's now a hockey school. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, that was sort of the goal in coming here. Obviously, Northeastern's a huge hockey school, and just sort of wanted to kind of bring that atmosphere and that energy to Arizona State with me. But, you know, it's sort of taken a life of its own. I think it's great. I've seen that on some of the social media pages saying that Arizona State's a hockey school, and it almost kind of seems like it's, you know, it doesn't fit, but that's why it fits. And I think what you'll see is so many other schools out here are gonna take up hockey and start building their own arenas and realize that it is a revenue generating sport. And
no question.
And yeah, I think it's been unbelievable, and it's great for the school.
How far can this team go this year?
Championship or bust. So yeah, I'm excited. Definitely, obviously, we got to get in first, and that's our goal right now. So you just got to take it one game at a time and move forward.
Well, it's great having you on the show, TJ, and it's really great having you as part of the Arizona State program. All the best to you, my friend, and happy holidays to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
That's Sun Devil goalie TJ Semptimphelter, who is our guest on this first edition of Sun Devil Extra. And with that, we bring down the curtain on our first installment of our new show, and we thank you so much for joining us. Thanks as well to our executive producer, Arizona State Senior Associate Athletic Director Doug Tamaro. Thanks to our terrific engineer producer, Sean Crespin from the Mountain America Credit Union Sun Devil Radio Network. And thanks to our exquisite, I think that's the new adjective of the week, exquisite show scheduler, Kim Nelson of Sun Devil Athletics. We'll be back next week with another edition of Sun Devil Extra, and we hope you'll make plans to join us. Till then, I'm Tim Healey. So long, everybody.